Vanakkam from India, Mr. Sergio.
Hi, it is a pleasure and an honor to be with you and seeing you again after all these years.
Thank you so much for accepting to be with us for the next 60 minutes. And the most important topic, effective leadership. I still remember the minutes when you were on stage, how the entire crowd of TEDx, over 1,000 people, were completely glued to you, and you were able to elaborate the different styles and understanding and purpose in life and all the other areas which are important to life. Thank you so much. There are 3 segments in this program. First segment is about who is Mr. Sergio, where was he born, where did he do his schooling, where did he do his college, all the way till today, and key lessons learned in your journey. The second one is about effective leadership, and the third one is a surprise segment. So we'll start with who is Mr. Sergio. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was born in Laredo, Texas, in the United States, but when I was a year old, my parents went to Mexico, so I was actually raised in Mexico, in Monterrey, Mexico. I was a Boy Scout, and I also did swimming during that time. And so I competed in swimming. That was my sport. But then when I went to, when I was in high school, I worked. I was actually a waiter at a restaurant down here that's called Jack and Ray. And I had a lot of lessons there. I learned a lot of things in terms of communicating with people, being self-reliant, enjoying other people as well. Then finally, I went to college. I decided for electronic and digital electronics was just starting. We're talking about a long time ago. So I studied there, and I started working in computer center early on. And I started, I was a hacker. I really enjoyed that. I would work day and night, things like that. And finally, I was very interested in technology, and I was interested in robots. And a speaker came to our university, and they spoke about a university in the United States that was starting to work with robots. And that university is Carnegie Mellon University. Some of you may know it. So I set it in my mind to actually go there. And I worked for a year. I actually only applied to Carnegie Mellon University. There are a lot of very good schools, Stanford, MIT, and there's also wonderful schools in India. But in this case, I only applied to Carnegie Mellon University, as that was the one that I really wanted to go to. And it was very, I think it was the right choice. I was there 9 years after my undergraduate. I was there 9 years, got to a master's and a PhD, worked in electrical computer engineering and also in robotics. And got a chance to work in 2 centers, 2 research centers. One of them is for design and engineering. It's the Engineering Design Research Center. And the other one is Dante. The other one is the Field Robotics Center. And in the Field Robotics Center, it was a lot of fun because we build real robots. I mean, the Robotics Institute has inflows a lot of money. And I was actually able to work on the design and part of the team that designed Dante, the first robot in history that entered into a live volcano in Antarctica in the South Pole. So that was very cool. Now, once I finished that, my wife finally told me, okay, you've had fun, now it's time to go to work. And it was a choice. So what do I want to do? Stay in the States, continue there, or go to Mexico? And I chose to come back to Mexico. And there were 3 reasons for that. One of them is family. Most of our family was in Mexico, and I've got great in-laws and family down here. And so for raising our kids, this was a nice place to be in. And the second thing is I really wanted to make a difference in 2 areas, education and quality of life. And quality of life through manufacturing. So in education, how do we transform education so that people really learn through understanding? Not only knowledge, but through understanding. And in quality of life is how do we improve manufacturing so that it is faster and it is easier? How do we transform? And then through my life, I've done a number of things. I actually started a number of companies. I was the one responsible for helping Yaskawa Motorman open and expand their offices in Mexico. Then I finally started my own companies. And in my own companies, I actually did robot systems for companies like Visteon, Nemak, pretty big tier 1 and tier 2 automotive companies, Fortune 100 companies as well, Fortune 500. And so I did that for a while. Finally, one of my businesses closed, So who's ever into entrepreneurship, that's another lesson we could talk about, what happens in business. But finally, I came to the point, okay, I want to go back to education. I was able to come back to education. I was invited by Tecnológico Monterrey because they wanted to transform the way we teach students. They really wanted to transform the way we teach students and the thought process, what people think, what students think when they graduate. So they invited me here. I worked with them. I was the head of the mechatronic program. We started a number of initiatives. I started the No Limits, where students from first semester learn by doing. So we inverted the process of education with No Limits. And they actually built robots that climb stairs in their first year. And one of my students at the time was actually invited by NASA to lead the design of a robot to explore the ice caps in Greenland while he was in his second year, so during the summer. So he actually led that project. So we did that, and I also started to get involved, and I realized that all of the students are very motivated when they come into college. They know what they want. They really want to change the world, and in 5 years, we kill that. So universities kill that. So I was very interested, how do we keep that spark? And I started some programs, how to increase resiliency, how to increase a sense of purpose, etc. And then I realized that when we start working, the same thing happens. Everyone is excited to work the first day. And by about 3 days, we start losing that. And then time goes by and a job is just a job. So since then, I've been working in leadership and advanced leadership and personal development and personal leadership to help people really identify that spark and really make a difference with their work, in their communities, in their families, and in their life. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, pretty much what I've done.
Thank you so much. What are the lessons learned in this process, Mr. Sergio? Like mainly the key lessons learned from the hurdles you faced or the challenges you faced.
Okay, I'm going to mention the first one. Anything you want to do that's really going to give you goosebumps, or like Steve Jobs said, it's going to make you sing, is also scary. Okay. But I also noticed that in your body, feeling scared feels exactly the same as feeling excited. So now in retrospect, I think I was feeling excited more than scared. Okay. But the first thing is, I learned that really, if you want to go for it, go for it. And just be willing to understand that when you're starting something new, you are a baby. You're just like a baby. You don't know anything. And it's okay. And you're going to learn through the process. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you are going to get ups and downs. Suddenly you're going to feel you're at the top, and suddenly you're going to see everything crumble. And that's the way it is. And that's fine. And the times it crumbles is because you're pushing the limits of what you can do, the limits of what you know what to do. And also there's a lot of variables around you. The question is, do you continue or do you quit? And that's a choice each of us has. The third thing I realized is, you get the happiness and you get the joy when you give and when you do things for others. So if the times that I have been worried about money and I have made decisions because of money or because of a lack of money, I'm unhappy. And the times I've made it to make a difference, I have made a difference. I've been very happy and I have made a lot of money. So it really is a mindset, but I really do encourage that fear sometimes makes us do, I'm going to say it, just stupid stuff. And as a leader, as a person, as a parent, as a child, as everything, the fear we get. So if you and I are willing to overcome the fear or do things despite the fear, we can do a lot of things. So that's that. And the other thing is, you cannot go through life and enjoy life and really do it alone. There are such wonderful people that are out there and have actually helped me and have actually learned. And it doesn't matter, and I'm not talking about just economically. There's a lot of people there that when I've been down, the people that had less money are the people that really lifted me up. And so, I mean, I really appreciate and honor a lot of people that have been in my life and are still in my life.
Now we move on to the main segment, which is effective leadership. So that's the topic which is very close to your heart, the 9 pillars of engagement. You can start explaining on those areas, sir.
Okay, thank you. Look, the first thing about leadership is, it is not about you. And that's the first lesson I want to give you. I want to share the hero's journey. When you are a leader, it changed. You may have become a leader because of everything you did and you know how to do, and you were the best. You were very diligent. But once you are a leader, it is no longer about you. It is about the people around you. And that is the toughest part, I think, in leadership, to realize that you are no longer the hero of the story. If you are an a Star Wars fan, you are no longer Luke Skywalker. That's the other people. Your job is Obi-Wan or Yoda. And if you're into other stories, maybe it's now you're Gandalf, I think is the name. So you become the teacher, the mentor, and that's the goal of leadership. Now, there's a very difference in management and leadership, and I think you need both. Management is managing your resources, the time of the people, the money. But management is not leadership. Leadership is about moving the minds and the heart of the people, because ultimately the people are the ones that are going to do it. Now, the 9 pillars of engagement is this. After doing a lot of extensive studies, I started studying why do people or companies not hit their targets. So very logic would say, if I have results are going to be a function of good operating procedures and clear goals. So that's obvious. Well, if that was all that was the case, then everybody that has clear goals and has good operating procedures would always have extraordinary results. And that's not the case. So what's missing? And I know many of you are already saying people, and you're right. But there's 2 aspects of people that make a difference. One I call the foundational, or the foundations, emotional foundations. And the other I call the emotional amplifiers. Now, the emotional foundations are only 4. And these, if you have them, you will get the results, okay, that you're looking for with the procedures and with the objectives, clear objectives. But if you do not have them, despite a lot of effort, you might not hit the target. And these 4 are trust, caring, what I called and I coined OVI, which is Open Vulnerability Index, and connection. An Open Vulnerability Index is something you develop yourself as a leader and other people develop. And the thing is, it's a way to measure how comfortable you feel in removing your armor. Because even in this relationship you and I are having right now, this conversation we're having, I could be worried about what you think. I could be worried about what I say. I could be worried about a lot of things. That means I put an armor in front of me. I put a mask, and you're looking at me through that mask. Well, in any relationship, we put a mask in front of us. We put an armor. If you're able to release that armor and really have a transparent communication, that's OVI. So a high OVI would be that. So those are 4 elements that you need in the pillars, the foundations. If you lack trust, if people do not feel that you care about them and you do not care about people, if they do not trust you and you do not trust them, if you are always putting this guard up, or if you do not have a real connection, then your efforts are going to be tremendous and your results are going to be less. Now, there's another aspect. So these are the emotional foundations, but there's another aspect that has to do with emotional amplifiers. And this is where you have everyone in your organization has a sense of belonging, has a sense of pride, has a sense of purpose. Everyone feels significant, that they matter, that their work matters, that their ideas matters. And then also they feel that they are mastering and that they are growing and progressing. Those 5 are amplifiers. So with very little, you can actually get people. I don't know if you've seen it, but sometimes, I don't know if you have the Ironman races over in India or where you're at in the world right now listening to us, but those are the most deplorable conditions. You go out there and run. You have to train for about a year and a half. You're going to get rain. You're going to get mud. You're going to get scratched. You're going to get beaten. And people walk out of there excited, taking selfies all over the place and enjoying it. That's because there's a very big sense of belonging, sense of purpose, sense of pride, sense of significance, and sense of mastery. Okay, in companies that happens as well. And that helps me explain why a small company, a tiny company, will beat a big company, why an Uber will exist, or why different companies that Airbnb will actually do that. They do not have clear processes when they start. They do not have clear procedures, clear objectives, but they have extremely motivated people that are willing to put themselves on the line and be in front and share and communicate and everything. Those are emotional amplifiers. Now, when those are bad, when you actually have people that are upset, that they do not feel significant, that they do not feel that pride, that they actually feel embarrassed sometimes because I'm working for a leader that is really, okay, then you get negative effect on that. And that can actually turn into sabotage within your company. So the emotional foundations are needed. Those are needed, and you need to build them up as a leader. And you need them to build them up in your community. And then the other ones are the ones that are going to amplify the effect. And you have to take care of people and make sure that you create that sense of purpose, that sense of belonging, that sense of pride, sense where people feel that they are significant, their work matters, and also that they are growing and expanding. So those are the 9 pillars of engagement.
Okay, so now say in this COVID scenario, what is it where people are actually lacking? Because what we see all around the world when we talk about leadership, like they are really successful. They were really successful, but now they're struggling on different layers when it comes to manpower, or when it comes, they have to lay off people, or furlough people, or fire people. And the other hand, like there's a lot of payments which are not settled, salaries which are not being paid. And from the employee point of view, you see people like a bit scared about whether they will still hold the job, whether they'll get the salary, if they get, whether it will be in full amount. So this kind of emotion trauma is going on all over the world. So how do you see like situational leadership is required at this point?
I'll go back to the 4 pillars. You really need to care about people because people are living that. And maybe you're not going to fire somebody, but people are worried that they will, that you
Correct.
will. So you need to develop that caring. That is a foundation. You need to develop it. The other is trust. You need to communicate very openly. You have to be transparent. You also have to have high OVI. You have to be willing to say, I do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we're all in the same boat. I do not know, but this is a situation, and this is a plan. This is what I think we can do. Give me your ideas, and let's work together and let's get it. Now, you also have to have a lot of caring. In a sense, there are programs like, if you look into conscious capitalism, you look into firms of endearment, you'll hear stories where there were other situations, not as bad as the pandemic maybe, but there was a world economy problem where a lot of people were going to get fired. And companies have actually taken, and companies, by companies, I'm not talking only the leaders, but the leaders and the people that work there have taken measures, for example, pay cuts, so that nobody loses their job. Or even the employees offered to get paid 1 week less so that people that have less money will actually have more money. So there's a lot of caring. So what I would invite is, one of them, you have to be transparent. You're not going to change the situation. The situation is what it is. And so you're going to, what I recommend is you really work on those 4 things. Establishing and maintaining trust, establishing and maintaining caring, reciprocal caring, to your colleagues and coworkers, not only the leaders, but to the same people in your office and the people in your community. The third is high OVI, so be willing to remove that armor and be transparent. And the fourth one is actually connect with people. Those are the 4 things I would recommend in this situation.
Because how Warren Bennis and Bert Annis termed it in '87, the term VUCA, which is actually at that point of time it was for a different purpose, but now it also applies. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is the 4 things which is in different combination and permutation we see in business all around the world. Okay. Now on next area which I want to touch on leadership is there are different styles. Like there are based on the situation. Of course, people do a mix and match of different styles of leadership. But with current scenario, what we have noticed is people who have been compassionate and really, really good in reshaping the culture are the ones who have been successful in eradicating or at least reducing the corona in their countries. And most of them are women. So what's your comment on that? All the countries which was able to control, which was able to take complete control of the corona situation, all the leaders were women, coming from Germany to New Zealand to wherever we saw, it's all women in the key leadership position. They were able to take control of it. So your stand on that?
On what? On what they did in their countries, or on the fact that they are women?
Both, both.
Okay, I think that the countries that are being successful, I'll tell you what I think is happening with the companies that are with the countries that are not being successful. They are
Okay.
thinking only about themselves, me first. And
Okay.
it's not only me first as a country, it is me first as a human being, because that's the philosophy, which means I'm going to go me first. And if I see you're running and you're not making money, well, that's your problem. That's not mine. I've seen
Mm,
situations here where
mm,
friends of mine, lost their job, lost their business, lost everything. And they're starting to cook things in their home and sell things. And we automatically shift and we say, okay, we're going to buy from them. Let's go. Let's help them out. And but when we're thinking about just ourselves, that's one of them. The second thing is, do not politicize. We have a pandemic. Unless we're able to control the pandemic and control and be safe out there, we're not going to be able to restart economies. Okay, it's not going to happen. People are still going to be afraid. People. So the first thing we need to start thinking is, as people, we need to be kind. We need to be generous. This is the time to really think about the rest. And I think that's what's happening in other countries. Things as simple as masks. I mean, it does not hurt anybody to wear a mask. And in other countries, they politicize this so much and they've turned it into the banner of, this is my Republican Party, or this is my X party, or this is my presidency, or this is whatever. And they're turning it into, this is a human rights issue. I have the right to choose not to wear it. Instead of just saying, look, if we all wear a mask, we're going to be a lot safer. That's one of the things. Now, the matter of there being women in high-level positions, I have not followed very much what's going on in Europe, so I cannot tell you that. But my thought about women is, I know a lot of wonderful women. They have a lot of qualities as people, wonderful qualities as leaders. They have a lot of caring. They have a lot of, but also they make the tough decisions. So see, it's not about, let me just be generous and get you to like me and we're going to do that, because then that's not going to work. Sometimes as a leader, you have to make the tough choices. You have to make the tough decisions. And I once heard Bill Clinton, I had the pleasure of being at one of his conferences. And what he said is, the leader is not the person that makes the most popular choice. The leader is the one that makes the right choice. And it's always stayed with me. Because as a leader, you are responsible for the people. You are responsible for the country. It's no longer about you. And I feel that the leaders, the presidents and country leaders that are thinking about them, their party, how they're going to look, their presidents, their re-elections, are thinking about them and not the people. So I don't know if I answered in both ends. But like I say, in women in leadership, I believe it's wonderful. I also believe that we need to focus what it is to have women so let's imagine and create the possibility of women in positions of leadership. And my suggestion is, let's take the labels out of the way. So instead of thinking, oh, let's force gender equality, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for a capable woman to be in the right position. That's what you're looking for. You're not talking about gender equality or inequality. And I hope this is not misunderstood. What I'm trying to say is, in order to solve the problem, we need to think about what we want and not what we lack. And a lot of the problems we're trying to address, poverty, gender equality, inclusion, etc., we're thinking about what we lack. We're coming from the space of what we lack. We're not thinking about from the space of what we want. So let's think about what you want. You want women to be able to develop, grow, expand into positions of leadership. You also want it to be natural. You don't want it to be so unnatural that we actually have to label it. Like you and I are friends, and I'm not labeling friends. It's a given. We're friends. So how do we create that new normal where that happens? And I believe we need to move towards what we desire and not away from what we lack. If you want to have wealth, think about what you want, not about, I do not want to have debts and I do not want to have credit card piled up. Think about what it is. I want to have freedom. I want to be relaxed. I want to have all my payments made. If you want to have joy in your family, think about the relationship you want with your family. Not, I do not want to fight with my kids and I do not want to fight with my wife, because you're always thinking about that. Better think about what it would be a good relationship. I think the same as in leadership, but the same as in women in leadership. Okay, I think, I mean, that's and like I say, I hope it doesn't misunderstand, but what I'm saying is let's move towards what we want. And that is one, how does it look like to have women in leadership? That's it.
Okay. The next one is, what's your advice to youth who want to equip themselves? They want to, learn all the areas wherever they have to equip themselves to become a very powerful leader. What is it, as a youth, what should they focus on?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that, and I'm actually I have something called the Intentional Possibility Challenge, and I'm going to invite everyone that's watching to take it. But it is a very simple process. It's a 6-step process. You think about an ideal world, and you can start by something you're complaining about, but you turn it around and you imagine the ideal world, the way it would be if that you complain about doesn't exist. Second thing is you actually enroll people, you start communicating with people, you form a coalition of people, you actually invite people decision makers, policy makers, influencers, friends, people that do it. Once you do that, enroll and share the possibility, with that group, you come up with initiatives and small projects that have a high impact. So I'm going to invite you to have a project that impacts 200 people at least. And if you're already used to impacting 200 people, make it 2,000. You're looking for a project big enough that you cannot do it by yourself and you have to give it away. Once you do that, let's do the normal process. You make a plan, you make an implementation plan, a deployment plan, and make it happen. You get it to action, you make it happen. And then you find ways to celebrate along the way. But the key issue, the reason I'm inviting people to do this in leaderships is that through the process, and I'm not talking about through the project, through the process, you as a person, as a youngster or as an adult, you live a process where you face fears, where you actually form a group of people that you feel comfortable with that are there to support you. You actually realize that you have everything you need to take it on, to do it. And you also develop a lot of self-confidence and resiliency, because the only way to develop resiliency and self-confidence is to face adversity. And this is an intentional adversity. Now, because you're doing something that has an impact, the projects, by the way, the possibility is something that will have an impact in a culture, in a community, in the environment. So there are things that will make a difference. You start feeling significant. So what I'm going to invite youth is go ahead and do this. And dare to live the process. Don't think about the project, think about the process. And through the process, you become the great leader you need to be. Because it is not great leaders that make wonderful projects and initiatives happen. It is wonderful projects and initiatives that transform people into great leaders. And I left everyone speechless.
Now we'll focus on now I'll focus on this one. Like say a person they want to enter into entrepreneurship. Students, or be it a person who has worked for some time and now they want to enter into entrepreneurship. What areas they should be careful about? First of all, what they should be aware of when they get into entrepreneurship. It's not what they see when they witness a conference or a seminar or a workshop, and then they feel, okay, let us do it. They will get all pumped up when they start. But then, like, what is it that really they have to be ready with mentally, and also like what are the other practical aspects? Second things, what are the things they should be careful about?
Okay, so we're talking about entrepreneurship. Somebody that's starting an entrepreneurship. Okay, first thing is I would invite anybody that's into entrepreneurship to look for what, at least here we have them in Mexico. They're called company incubators, and they're companies and people that will will guide you through a process, because there is a process where you can actually make it easier. When I started off as an entrepreneur, I had to make a lot of mistakes. I had to lose a lot of money. I had to fail 1,000 times. Right now, I think the world is ready so that entrepreneurs are helping other entrepreneurs. Leaders are helping other leaders. So the first thing I would suggest is try to find that support, find those groups and listen to them. There are people that already went the path, that already have the experience, that already failed a lot of times, and they can guide you a little bit more. And what that's going to happen is it's not a guarantee that you're going to succeed, but it's going to pave the way. Okay. Now, the second thing is entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's a mindset. Number one is you have to realize that your business has to be much greater than to make money. If you want to make money, there are many ways of making money, some good, some bad, some legal, some not. But that's not going to be sustainable emotionally. That's not going to be sustainable physically, and that's not going to attract other people to you. So companies that succeed have a purpose, and people have a purpose. So what I would suggest is you really think about what you're trying to change in the world. And because sooner or later, the question you're going to ask yourself is, if my company ceases to exist, what did the world lose? So that's the first thing that's going to be a driver. It's also going to attract people if you need money. It's going to attract people to help you. It's going to attract employees to be with you. So that's the second thing. The third is you really need to understand who you're doing it for and your customer. Companies, new entrepreneurs that say, I'm going to serve everyone in the world. Well, you're really serving nobody in the world. So one of the things that you really want to think about is who is it specifically? And the more narrow you can get it, the better it is. Now, once you know who, you need to start understanding them. Because it's not about you, it's about them. It's not about you making money, it's about you giving a service. So that would be the thing you want to do. And there are things like that. You could actually do empathy maps. There's also some other tools you can use to try to understand who your customer, and we call them the avatar, really is. So who's your customers? Then you really need to understand who your stakeholders are, because a business will flourish if you have all the elements around you. Imagine like Nokia did once. They developed, I think it was a G3. They were the first ones to develop the new network. And suddenly there were no satellites to be able to support it. There was nobody to support it. So what happened after they invested a lot of money and they were number one in the market? They lost ground because their technology was not, there was no way to implement it. Or somebody developed a tire that does not go flat. And it actually runs 150 miles after you get a puncture, after it goes. But they didn't realize that somebody has to fix it. Whereas right now, in the tires that you and I have, we go to any shop, they just put a patch on it, they put a little glue, or they put a little heat on it, and it's done. Well, they didn't prepare that. So you have to think about all around you how you're going to support it. So those are three things that you do want to look at. The fourth is, and this is a mistake that I did, worry about cash flow and worry about delivering the goods before you worry about putting your fancy offices. So when I started off, I was afraid that people would not hire me because I did not have a fancy office. So any money I had, I tried to put into a fancy office. Fancy offices do not sell. The biggest, when I redid a company, because I've started companies a number of times, and they say the more you do it, the more experience you have. So, and I think, and I believe it's true. But finally, in one of my companies where I did the robot things, I actually ended up selling systems for $750,000, and I sold about $1 million in robotic equipment, and I did it all from my house. So the only thing is I did not invite customers to my house. I went to visit the customers. So one of the things is that focus on what really matters, which is how do you do what you're going to do? How do you do it well? How do you give the best service? And in order to give the best service, you need to really understand your customer. Now, with the employees, you have the same thing. You really need to understand the employees. What are they looking for? What do they want? And hire more for attitude than for aptitude. You can teach almost anyone anything, any skill, but you cannot teach them to think and feel and act. Okay, so hire for attitude. Those are some of the things that you do want to do. Do get a good accountant and learn accounting, because you really want to know your numbers. Those are some of my other mistakes I did. I did not know accounting, and I hired somebody that was a secretary because I did not have a lot of money. The next time I hired a real accountant at the real way of doing it, because you do want to pay taxes. You do want to keep the scheme. You do want to know how much you're spending. You do need to control those things. So I do recommend you get into those things, because those will bring you down. Okay. And the last is cash flow. You have to watch cash flow. Cash flow is king. You can sell things before you build them, but you do need to have the money. And a lesson for me is if I did this all over again, I would tell you, do not accumulate debt. Do not. Because I did a lot of stuff with debt, and I said, okay, I'll get a credit card, I'll get a loan from the bank. Sooner or later, the biggest part of your income goes to paying the interest of the debt. So you're pretty much choked up. You cannot move. You cannot move. And last but not least, I would not be afraid. Determine the value of what it is that you're trying to sell, and make it fair. But don't be afraid of it, because sometimes I've seen that. I mean, my machines were not the cheapest ones. I was always the best quality, the best guarantee. I give them unconditional guarantee 1 year. If anything changed, I would fix it on my dime, but I was not the cheapest one. So, and I think that worked better because it allowed me to become different, because I offered the best service, the best attention, and the best result. I really took care of my customers. So.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on to the third segment, the lighter segment. You finish your work, you go back home, you have dinner with the family, you go to bed. Next day morning, you wake up as president of Mexico. Okay.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. Okay.
Now, as a president of Mexico, what changes would you like to see in your country?
Okay, I think there are changes. One of them is we need to eradicate poverty. There's a lot of poverty, but we need to change it with a mindset. We need to change it through education. We need to change it through helping people start up, and also we need to change it by instilling hope. So that's one of the things that we do. Number two is we need to create a way that business is really handled and it's really free to work, because there are a lot of restrictions in Mexico with business. I know a lot of great entrepreneurs, people that are worried about community, people that help a lot of other people, but they have so many constraints. I mean, when I got my first loan in the I was working in Mexico. I had my company in Mexico. It took me 2 hours to drive to the border of Texas, and I was able to get, I think it was $100,000 loan at 4% interest in 2 hours. Okay, or 1 hour plus a 2-hour drive. In Mexico, I was unable to get that because in order to lend you $100,000, you have to give them 10 times guarantee. So that's impossible. The other thing is you had to fill out papers. There was about 60 steps to actually incorporate a company. So here in Mexico, we need to create the conditions so that business can actually grow and flow. Okay. And I think the third thing is a lot more people with experience. We need to open up the channels so that they can go with the newbies, with the people that are starting entrepreneurship, and like we were just talking about, which they're very open to do. But we also need to create the mindset of the new entrepreneurs to work with them. So those are some things. So eradicate poverty. The other thing is open communication. And the third thing, I think, is create more of a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility. So instead of avoiding paying taxes and hiding, et cetera, and let me see how I can get away with it, if we could all really work together, and we'll eradicate a lot of stuff. We'll eradicate corruption. We'll eradicate a whole bunch of stuff. So I think those three things: eradicate corruption by starting with us. The second thing is eradicating poverty and emphasizing education. And the third is creating an environment where businesses can flourish.
Okay. Now, if I give you a magical wand, okay, with one swish, one thing can change globally. What is that one thing you would like to change?
Hope and kindness.
Okay.
Those are the two things that I think if we could generate more hope and more people thinking about the others, we can eradicate a lot of the problems that we have. We can ease COVID, we can ease businesses, we can eradicate a lot of stuff. So if you gave me a magic wand, I think those are the two things that I would magically appear is hope
and kindness.
And kindness. Yes.
Okay. Now the next question is, I'm giving you a time machine where you can go to any period you want, and who you consider as a leader, you can spend 1 month with that person. He or she, you spend 1 month with that person, learn all the leadership traits, come to 2020, you publish a book on that, which will help youth across Mexico or across the world, all the youth will be benefited from that. In fact, after you come and publish, that's going to be like a book which will be given to all the center of excellence opened across all the states in Mexico, where 1,000 youth in each state has to do that course after their graduation before they enter into the real world, something like that. So you can understand the gravity of the, the book and the importance it's going to hold in future of Mexico. So which leader would you meet, and what are the leadership traits you would learn from him or her, and then you come and write the book?
Okay, so I'm going to go from what I'd like to generate and create, because there are wonderful leaders in the convention. I mean, there's Gandhi, and there are a lot of wonderful people all over the world. But I would go into something present. I would actually go back to Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield, I've been fortunate enough that he is my mentor. He has been my mentor and friend. And
Wow.
one of the things that he helped me is he teaches the success principles, 64 principles to get from where you are to where you want to go. But one of the things that he also taught me is this hope and kindness, and how you and I can make a difference in the world. So what I would do is go back to work with him for a year, come up with a book that helps people really take 100% responsibility of their life, take 100% responsibility of the happiness and their community of others and happiness of others. And also by doing that, I would create the intentional possibility challenge we talked about. And I would instill that in all of Mexico, and not only Mexico, I would actually instill it in all over the world. Because I have been a witness where I actually have seen kids that come in that live in low-income communities, low-income communities have actually gotten together, and with no additional help from government or any place, they've actually gotten their parents and got their communities together, and they have actually implemented things like a place to eat, a diner, a building to eat, because they didn't have that. Or they've also created a beautiful place to play soccer and be able to play games and play everything in school. They've made a huge transfer. They've actually cleaned up lakes that were not working. So kids in very low income housing and income communities have actually made the transformation. So if we can make this all over the place, wow, I think we can change Mexico. And we will create that sense of kindness, and we will create the sense of self-confidence, and we will create leaders that will actually change the world.
I should have probably asked that president question after this. Now we have created the change, and people liked you, and now they have made you president. Okay. Now this
There you
segment
go.
is over.
There you go.
Now, we are moving to the next one, which is gratitude segment, where you pay your gratitude to people who has supported you, who is supporting you, guided, mentor. They have mentored you or educated you, motivated you. You name it, whatever they have done for you to be you, who you owe your success to. So you can name them and pay your gratitude to them.
Thank you. There's actually a lot of people, and I'll thank you as well, because you made possible that a number of us were able to share a message in Chennai. So I really want to thank you. I also want to thank Pooja Kapoor, whom you may know, and many of you may also know. But I've been fortunate enough. I have a lot of people. There's Jack Canfield. There's Kathleen Seeley. There's Rick Petrie. Jack and Kathleen are people that I've been working with, and I've been learning a lot in terms of leadership and how to bring out, how to be out of the community. I would also thank Jan Fraser, and that actually was my coach in writing and made my book possible, Intentional Possibility. Also Rick Petrie, my accountability partner. He's another. My wife, which is a person that's really been with me all through. Red Whitaker, from Carnegie Mellon University, that led the robot project. He was one of the mentors that I had that really made a transformation in my way of being and gave me a lot of opportunities. He actually generated a lot of opportunities and helped me a lot. So I'm really grateful. Then I've got some other people like Mel Siegel, that we created a lot of things together, and Rachel Burson. So I don't know. I could mention a lot of people. My dad also, the way he raised me. My mom, the support she never left me. Uh, Thanks to her, I finished the book. So she was always there. And right now, both are in heaven, and I know they're watching this. So my in-laws also, they've been incredible support for myself and my family. So those are some of the people that I would be happy to mention. And there's a lot more. I don't think we have time right now to be able to thank all of the people, but I've been very fortunate to really be surrounded with people, wonderful people that have influenced my life and have been with me in the goods and in the bads.
Okay. We touched on effective leadership. We touched on different angles of whether men or women or what makes a good leader or a great leader. We touched on how youth should equip themselves. We touched on entrepreneurship, being a business leader, what is importance of collective consciousness or collaborative business style. We touched on all those areas, and also we had the areas where you said what will you do if you become a president, and all these areas we have touched. Now, if you summarize all these things, and if you could say your message to the world, okay, like what are the areas people should be able to first understand and then accept, if at all, because the current situation where people, if they're in denial mode, they're not going to grow. So understanding that this is a crisis and it is globally happening, and yes, it takes grit for us to stay put and then come face it, move on, then achieve. So all these areas, if you could summarize and tell, that would be great. Like, what is the message to the world?
I would say, I would tell the world, number one is we really need to instill hope in ourselves, in our youngsters, in our communities, and help the people that feel hopeless. Instill hope is one of the things. The other thing is we all have to. I believe we have to take, or it's powerful if we actually choose to take responsibility, 100% responsibility, not only for my happiness but for your happiness, not only for my growth but for your growth. And right now is being generous towards each other, really thinking about how we can support. Right now is the time for us to get together. This is the Ironman, and I'm going to put the Ironman. We're all in a team. We're all going to get together. I know it sounds so. Really, what I'd like to see is that looking forward, for people that are still stuck, I would invite you to find ways of getting unstuck, generating the hope as to what is possible, looking for the support to do, but towards moving forward. So those are some of the things that I would do. But mostly, yeah, let's generate hope, let's generate passion, let's generate moving. The world has changed, and it's going to be what we decide it to be. So let's get together, get all of this under control, and let's take care of the people that are still behind, and let's move forward. That's the message that I would try to leave.
Okay, now when it comes to accepting and moving on, you have given a very good message for people to, think about it, work on it, and then create impact. I've asked 60 minutes of your time to talk on all the different types of leadership and what is the most effective leadership. Almost all the areas which I wanted to ask, you have covered, and you have also answered certain other areas a little bit extra about other than the leadership style, where we deviated a little bit on comparing the leadership styles and things like that. Thanks for that, first of all. And second thing is, if you would like to mention any areas which we have left out, we can touch on it. We have another 6-7 more minutes. So if you would like to share some of the courses which you conduct and what are the services you provide under Solution Center Group, please go ahead and tell so that people can get connected with you. We have viewers, live viewers, and also once this goes to YouTube, we have people viewing it a little bit later, day after tomorrow, or 2 days later, so that they can contact you.
Oh, thank you very much. I would love that. Look, there are a number of things I do. One of them is I'm very much in touch with the Intentional Possibility Challenge, and I work with people. And there's I'm starting with groups to actually implement it. We're implementing it in business schools, for example, and we also did it in colleges, where they have done tremendous transformation in their companies. So that's one of the things that I invite you, anybody that's interested in that, do contact me, and we can get involved. Or if you want to start a group, or if you want to start something, we can definitely do that. So that's one of the things I do. The other is I help companies directly with the culture. So by first of all figuring out what's behind it, there's a fabulous model that we use that's called the Richard Barrett seven levels of consciousness model. But that allows you to see how where your people are, where your culture currently is, and where they want the culture to go. And with that, we can create a program that does it. And the third thing I do is I actually have a development program that's divided into two parts. I, which is self-leadership and working with yourself. Two is you and I, which you need as a leader. How do you bring people together? How do you connect with your workers, with your colleagues? How do you actually change the way of thinking, the way of feeling? And how do you take people from being very upset and tense to actually being able to listen and now able to construct? So that's the second stage. And the third stage is us, where we actually, through intentional possibility, create intentional leaders all throughout, or titleless leaders all throughout the organization. So I'd love to talk with you, communicate, and please do contact me. My email is ssedas@sergiosedas.com. So just contact me directly. You also have my webpage, and if not, we'll post it here on the where the video is. We'll give you that information. But do contact me. I love all this stuff. I'd love to hear your successes, and I really encourage you to go out there. You have a powerful message. Each of you has a powerful message. We all have a powerful message. So find your message and live it with passion and really make a difference.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sergio. Like, we covered on all the key areas, and especially what is required now in this time of crisis. All the way from Mexico, you're sharing this message to the world, and thanks for that. And I wish you all the success in your future endeavors. And wherever possible, you can always think of Hari sitting in Chennai. Will be there to support you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, and with a lot of appreciation, I'm telling you this, with a lot of caring and a lot of appreciation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mr. Sergio Sedas from Mexico. I've met him almost 8 years before here in one of the TEDx conferences, where he was able to, as I told in the beginning, he was able to get the entire crowd listen to him. He was more like a Pied Piper. Whatever he did, people were just following, and whatever activities he did, people were glued to him. One person I would highly recommend in contacting if you're interested in understanding about life or about your business. That's Mr. Sergio Sedas, and as he said, you can contact him through his website or by